All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. It's recap edition. It's not really any either college football or NFL. I'm talking quietly because I'm in the living room here. It's not a problem I'm gonna have in future episodes, but I decided to work out today, starting the journey back working out here. So I got back a little bit later than usual. So I'm in the living room because I'm currently eyes on the Vikings Rams pregame here because I figure this is probably gonna run into the kickoff here. So we figured I'd just do this out in the living room because as much as I love you guys, I gotta watch every single second of this game, whether it kills me or not. Which it might kill me. It might kill me, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. Anyways, we got a full recap here, minus obviously the Monday night game with the Vikings at the Rams. My asshole's tight, boys. It is tight at the moment, and it's hey, we're gonna get through this together. We're gonna get through this together. First off, I apologize for the glare here. It's out of control. There's just nothing I can do about it. I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna look like utter shit today. There's just nothing I can do. Really just not filtering the cuss words today, I suppose. Any hoozles, let's kind of get into this thing here. So, I mean, we got college football recap, NFL recap. First and foremost, though, I do want to hit up on some headlines. Hello, dog. How you doing? How you doing, pup? Yep, that's right. That's right. I just fed you dinner. Just fed you dinner. Yep, that's my Gatorade right there. In fact, let me take a swig of that Gatorade. Justin Jefferson wearing the clout goggles. Bejeweled, bedazzled, Bose headphones. Looking just stellar, as per usual. The guy is a stud. I hope he doesn't break my heart. He'll never break my heart. I hope everyone else around him doesn't break my heart. I'll look at that text later. Any hoozles. So we got some headlines first and foremost. So first off kind of got to go around the horn here. So first off, the Patriots hired Mike Vrabel. That's big news. Obviously, he was the number one choice. He was the clear and obvious choice, I would say. I mean, that makes sense for all parties. Honestly, it's an interesting question that I was kind of pondering myself. For Mike Vrabel specifically, what's the dream job? Is it Ohio State or is it the New England Patriots? I mean, if you have an NFL job and you're doing a good job at it, you're not going to leave one of those. But so I guess the answer is we'll never know. I honestly feel like it's a little bit of a lean to Ohio State. But the Patriots are, I mean, right there neck and neck. The fact you're asking that question says a whole lot. I mean, he's going to go in there. He's going to reset the culture. He's going to be exactly what the Patriots need. I have no question in my mind. Might take him a few years. The roster's kind of a disaster outside of Drake May. But hey, you give him a few years, he's going to get this thing right. You got to get the personnel decisions right for sure, but he's going to get things right. And then from there, they're going to start winning games. They might win some games immediately. We'll just have to wait and see. The defense is going to be better overnight. I know that much. Offensively, I'll be interested to see where he goes offensive coordinator-wise. Obviously, the staff that they brought in last year was a total disaster. Kind of not their fault, but also they didn't do themselves a whole lot of favors with the play callings that they had. So, yeah, just kind of a disaster. Mike Vrabel hasn't exactly been known as a guy that will bring in elite offensive coordinators, just not exactly his MO over the course of his coaching career. But hey, maybe being around an offensive staff there with the Cleveland Browns, granted it was a terrible football team, but at the same time, offensive-minded staff, maybe he picked up on a few things. I'm sure he had some moments of self-reflection just based off of how things ended in Tennessee. None of it was really his fault, but when you're out of a job, it's a good time to kind of sit back and think, take inventory, if you will, on what's going right, what's going wrong, what we can improve on, and we'll see if Mike Vrabel did that. I think he's the type of person that did, and I'm sure has, but I'm interested to see exactly how this pans out with the New England Patriots. I think it'll ultimately end up well. It's just, how much time are they going to give him? I think the fact that it's the Crafts and he's kind of a legend of the franchise, a fan favorite for a long time. I think he's got a long leash. I think he's going to need that, though, because it's a big job ahead of him. But, hey, we'll see how that staff develops from here. We won't know until we move this thing forward. But the first guy to get hired in this head coaching cycle is Mike Vrabel with the New England Patriots, the most obvious one. I think pretty much everyone kind of knew once Gerard Mayo got the stanky boot that Mike Vrabel wasn't far behind. It was kind of funny that they just knocked out the Rooney Rule interviews in one day. I think it was Pep Hamilton and, it wasn't Lovie Smith, was it? I don't know. It was two guys that were just simply not going to get the job, that they just brought in right away just so they could fulfill the Rooney Rule sham obligations there. And then it's just a sea of milk, just a sea of white people that you're bringing up after that. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say on that one. Also, Carson Beck enters the transfer portal, pretty much immediately goes to Miami. I'm sure there was no back channeling there whatsoever, but I digress. So he's coming off of an elbow surgery or wrist surgery. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was on his throwing arm, though, and it's not good. Not good. Similar sort of thing to what Brock Purdy had, I would imagine. They're always a lot cagier on the injury details in college, so hard to say exactly what it is, but he needed surgery for it, and it was late in the season. So we'll see if that affects things going into next year. But, I mean, if Carson Beck is the same as he was last year, well, maybe not last year, but call it the year before last year, I think he'll be just fine in Miami, and Miami's going to be right back in this thing. They got some real problems to figure out on the defensive side of the ball. Don't get me wrong on that one. But offensively, if Carson Beck shows up and he's just as good, they should be just fine. I mean, Miami, at least last season with Cam Ward, which no guarantee that Carson Beck will be Cam Ward. In fact, there's almost a guarantee that he won't be quite that good. But even Carson Beck is plenty good enough for Miami to have an elite offense. It's the defense that I'm always worried about. There's just not a whole lot of bodies on that side that you trust. A lot of guys that were supposed to be good that ultimately weren't. I believe they fired the defensive coordinator, hired a new one over there. So things aren't good on the defensive side of the ball for Miami, and it's ultimately what kept them out of the playoff last year if you want to get right down to brass taxes. So, hey, Carson Beck is good. I think he kind of keeps them at the level where they have been offensively, maybe a tick down, because I don't think Carson Beck is quite the same quarterback as Cam Ward, at least as an arm talent perspective. Well, not necessarily arm talent, just the way he decides to use the arm talent. The fuck it nature of Cam Ward's game is not something that is present in Carson Beck's game. But I think the offense will be good. The defense is just the lingering question. It's going to be the lingering question until they address it. It seems like they just always have a hole that needs to be mended, patched, all that sort of stuff. Oh man, they got Kyrie Jackson on the screen here. That's gonna, oh man, yeah, that's emotional stuff. That's emotional stuff. ESPN always likes to get a couple tears out of you. They're sneaky bastards. They're sneaky bastards, that ESPN. But yeah, Carson Beck to Miami, that's a big deal. That's the biggest move of the portal right there, bar none, I would say. There's been no other like Quinshawn Judkins or anything. The quarterback there, that's a huge deal. Especially coming off of an elbow injury. We'll see how he looks coming off of that. Okay. Also, by the way, his girlfriend, one of the Cavender twins, I can't remember exactly which one, also goes to Miami, by the way. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Just a little coincidence there. Anywho's, let's, is there anything else we got to hit on? Anything whatsoever? I don't think so. Yeah, let's just get into the recap here. So we'll start off on the college football side of things. Why not go chronologically here? So on Thursday, we had Notre Dame facing off against Penn State, and this one was just a stone cold banger. I mean, this was back and forth. The fourth quarter was 17-14 Notre Dame, and ultimately that 3 points was the difference. It was tied going into the fourth quarter, 10-10, and things just got a little bit lively there. Drew Aller basically threw this game away late. Terrible throw. Really, any way that you slice it, he threw it right to the defensive back, and even if he didn't throw it right to the defensive back, just based on the angle, the defender's in the way, there was no way that he was going to make that throw. Just bad decision. And it's a damn shame because Nick Singleton had 3 touchdowns, basically carried Penn State on his back the whole time. It's just you got outplayed by Notre Dame and Riley Leonard. And honestly, it's my fault for betting on this game because I discounted the fact that Penn State has both James Franklin and Drew Aller, both of whom I don't necessarily believe in when games get this meaningful, if you will. So that's my fault. That's my fault. I should not have bet on this game, especially not on Penn State. If I did bet on this game, obviously I should have bet on Notre Dame. But hey, hindsight's 50-50, as a wise prophet Cam Newton once said. So we'll just get back to the game here. Notre Dame, man, this is just how they win games. They get turnovers. They force you into a defensive battle. It looked like they were dead in the water out the gate. Penn State was up 10-0. Second quarter, Notre Dame gets 3 points right before half, and then they're off to the races in the second half, 24-14. They outscore Penn State. They get the win here, obviously, so they're in the national title game. Marcus Freeman, apparently the first black head coach to make it to a national title game since the BCS era started. Didn't know that. That kind of blew my mind whenever I heard that. I was just like, really? The first one? The first one, as I was making my lunch for the next day in the kitchen at like midnight because I forgot to do it earlier in the day. That's by the by, though. Yeah, Notre Dame got here. They got a killer group of coordinators between Mike Denbrock and, I apologize to the defensive coordinator, but I do forget his name, with Marcus Freeman as the head coach. Hey, Notre Dame has broken through this year. The 14 playoff. No. The 12-team playoff. I forget how many teams are in the playoff at this point. They just keep adding them, you know. But yeah, in this 12-team playoff era, I mean, they probably would have been in the 4-team era. But in this era, hey, you're comfortably in the field. You get to show your stuff on the highest level. And hey, we didn't know what Notre Dame was going into the playoff. Now we know. They're an elite team with an elite defense. They're exactly what they looked like all year. Except for that Northern Illinois hiccup there. But we can forgive that. Everyone's had a down game at some point this season. The point is they're in the national title game, and Penn State is wondering what they do now. It feels like they've reached their peak with James Franklin. That being said, if you're asking for James Franklin to resign here or no longer be the head coach at Penn State, I would say just be careful what you wish for, folks. Careful what you wish for. I would use the cautionary tale of Bo Pelini at Nebraska, and I don't think it would fall off necessarily like it did at Nebraska. But we've seen really right before James Franklin got there, it wasn't that far off from what Nebraska was experiencing. Penn State knows some lows, man, and you may forget those lows, but you'll find out about them real quick if you get rid of James Franklin and you don't absolutely nail the next hire, because you're going to have to absolutely nail the next hire to get an upgrade over James Franklin at this point. And sure, maybe Penn State has reached their peak. It's absolutely possible. I won't discount that possibility. But at the same time, if you stay here for long enough, you're bound to get one. Will you get more than that? Probably not, but you're bound to get lucky 1 year if you just keep knocking on the door like Penn State has knocked on the door. Just be happy with your 11 wins per year. One day it'll happen. It might not be for another decade, but one day it will happen with James Franklin. And if it doesn't, that also wouldn't be surprising, but you're great right now. You're trying to chase exceptionally great, when great is right there in the reality right now if you're a Penn State fan. And maybe that's a defeatist mentality, but I'll tell you what, the grass is not always greener. And I would tell you to look long and hard at the Nebraska example of what has happened, what has transpired since Bo Pelini was run out of town, if you want to play this game. That's the cautionary tale that you should look at right there. I don't think the administration's going to listen to all that noise. I think they're probably going to stick with James Franklin. They're already too late in the hiring cycle to really fire him at this point. This is not an Ohio State job. This is not Georgia. This is not an Alabama. It's a premier job, but it's just not on that level. So you don't have your pick of the litter like Alabama does. You can't just go over to the Washington head coach who just made it to the national title game and be like, hey, do you want to be our head coach? And you can't poach that guy. That guy is sticking where he's at because Penn State's not Alabama. You can't bring in a Kalen DeBoer like that. Hey, that's just the reality. Penn State is Penn State. And if you want to make one of those changes, it's got to happen right at the same time as everyone else. Otherwise, you're going to get left out in the hiring cycle. So That's just kind of what I'm thinking with Penn State. This is a disappointing loss for sure. Drew Aller looked terrible. Don't overreact and fire the offensive coordinator. Andy Kotelnicki is fantastic at his job. Just don't worry about that. Just keep the faith. Roll with what you got. You're going to be right back here next year in all likelihood, assuming that Drew Aller returns, which I would be shocked if he didn't, because he's probably looking at like a late round draft grade right now, if I had to guess. I mean, that would just be me, but I'm also exceptionally low on the potential of Drew Aller compared to some NFL types, I suppose. I guess I just don't. I don't think in 1980s logic, and a 6'5" guy who can't really move too well doesn't really move me all that much. Sure, great arm. What's he do with that arm, man? That's the problem we see here, and that's why GMs are going to keep getting fired over and over again. But I digress, folks. I've never been great at evaluating quarterbacks myself, so what do I know? Is anyone, though? No one is great at evaluating quarterbacks, except for maybe Sean Payton. He did kind of call it with Bo Nix. Tough game for Bo Nix, but it is what it is there. So Notre Dame gets into the national title game. They got that defense. They got that run game. They got the quarterback who doesn't really turn the ball over, which is a good thing. So what do we do now? Who do we play in the title game? Well, not a whole lot of drama with this one. Well, there was some drama, but the drama kind of dissipated late in the game. So Ohio State has the lead 21-14 over Texas in the fourth quarter. Texas is deep in Ohio State territory. They're possibly looking at scoring a touchdown. At the very worst, you're looking at a field goal attempt if you don't turn the ball over. And that is a big if, because what happens? Jack Sawyer comes off the edge, takes Quinn Ewers' lunch money, picks up the ball, runs it all the way back, 28-14. That was your dagger. Ohio State gets the win, 28-14. And even in a game where your all-world true freshman wide receiver phenom Jeremiah Smith has one catch for 3 yards, you're still winning by double digits. This Ohio State team is unstoppable. They're unstoppable. They're going to face Notre Dame now at this point. We'll get to that here in just a second, but we'll save it mostly for the preview episode that's coming on Thursday. That being said, this is a hot football team. This is a team that I don't want to face right now. They still held Quintravian Wisner to 17 carries, 46 yards, didn't score a touchdown in the game. Quinn Ewers didn't have a good game. He's probably looking at either the transfer portal or the NFL draft. Just depends on what he decides to do. I would guess the transfer portal at this point, but I wouldn't be shocked if he just decides to go to the NFL draft in a weak draft year. I don't know. That's kind of up in the air for Texas. Either way, the Arch era starts right now. I don't think there's a place for Quinn Ewers, whether it's fair or not. He's just kind of, hey, it's time for him to move on. It is time for the future now. Otherwise, Arch Manning is going in the spring transfer portal, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's where we're at with Texas. They just weren't as good as Ohio State. Literally no one is right now. So nothing to be ashamed of there. Nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. Texas is still going to be in this thing next year. The talent pipeline it's coming in hot and it's coming in heavy, and they have one of the best talent rosters in the entire college football right now with what they've assembled. It's a huge credit to Sark right now, and I think they're just going to keep it going. I think Arch is going to be good. We'll see how good. It's been tantalizing to see from afar. You never seen really the flashes passing. It's been a lot of the running stuff, but not a whole lot of the flashes passing the ball like you would expect from a guy with the last name of Manning. But he's going to get every opportunity to do that next year. I assure you of that. So that will be exciting. You have a lot to be excited about, Texas, but unfortunately, you proved on 3 separate occasions that when you play teams that are at your level, it just doesn't work out for you. Just doesn't work out for you. And Ohio State is just above the entire pack. So, again, no shame in that. No shame in that. You just ran into them a little bit early. If you didn't run into them here, you would have run into them in the national title. And, hey, either way, I think the result would have been roughly the same. Let me get a swig of this Gatorade here real quick. I'm looking at you, dog. That's right. That's right. I'm looking at you. Anywho, so that sets up Notre Dame, Ohio State in the title game. It is right now an 8-point line in favor of Ohio State. Jury's out on whether I'm going to take that or not. Leaning towards yeah. I'm leaning towards yeah at this point. But yeah, Notre Dame has found a way to. I mean, they won the last game, and I didn't expect them to. They have a great coaching staff. I mean, they might honestly win the coaching battle. That being said, it's a stacked coaching battle between these two staffs. I tell you what, they are well put together for sure. Marcus Freeman did a hell of a job with Notre Dame, and Ohio State. I mean, they always have their pick of the litter, so they have no excuse to not do a great job. But bunch of studs on both sidelines in the coaching staff in this one. We'll do a full preview on Thursday for that, but let's just say I'm very confident in Ohio State in this game, and that's not exactly a surprise, I would say. Okay, so let's get into the recap of the wild card weekend here, and I am kind of going lightning speed. We're going ludicrous speed right now because I do want to get myself into the football watching mode here in the near future. I'm currently watching Sam Darnold warm up, and my butthole's getting tighter. Don't love it. Don't love it. He scares me, and yeah, this is what we live for. This is what we live for right here. Either way, let's talk about the wild card round here. So the Texans, hand up, my bad, I was wrong. They beat the shit out of the Chargers. They embarrassed the Chargers, 32-12. C.J. Stroud went for 282 and a touchdown. Joe Mixon went over 100 and a touchdown. Didn't matter that Ladd McConkey went for 197 because I believe Nico Collins scored at least one touchdown. Yeah, just one touchdown, 122 yards, casual sort of day. Next leading receiver was Xavier Hutchinson with one catch for 34 yards. So not a great deal of depth in the wide receiver core, but hey, when you got Nico Collins balling, it doesn't necessarily matter, does it? Justin Herbert had probably his worst game of the playoffs, or really his playoff career is what I'm trying to say here. 14 of 32, 242 yards, 4 interceptions. Just a really bad game. The Texans defense just ate the Chargers lunch money in this game. They bullied the hell out of them. Had no mercy doing it. They laughed. They laughed is what they did. I heard them do it. They laughed at my bet. They looked at the -3 that I put down, and they laughed in my face. Didn't give a shit. Didn't give one shit about my feelings. They laughed in my face, and then they beat the Chargers into a bloody pulp. And what we learned from this is that the Chargers were not quite as good as their record may have led us to believe. I think we may have gotten some inklings of that as we got down the stretch of the year. There were some blowouts that should have been warning signs to your boy to not bet on this game. But let's not pretend like the Texans were some world-beaten, unstoppable team. I thought they were going to be much better than they are this year. They haven't been good all year. They have better players. That's why they won this game. But the offense has looked terrible all year. The defense has been good. I'll give them that. But the offense has just been inconsistent. C.J. Stroud has had a sophomore slump sort of year. They looked inconsistent. I thought this was a game where the Chargers would go in and win. I did also discount the environment at the Houston Texans home field. I discounted the fact that this is the first home playoff game that they've had in quite some time. Well, they just had one last year. What am I talking about? But still, home playoff game. Home playoff game in a success-starved city franchise. Yeah, I fucked up on this one. I fucked up on this one. My bad. But, hey, the Texans are into the second round. I believe they're going to be facing off against the Chiefs. I don't know that for certain. Let me just look at it real quick here. Yeah, they're going to face up. No. The Commanders are facing off against the Chiefs. They're facing off against the Bills. So good luck. Good luck to you there. If C.J. Stroud can, well, even if he plays like this, only one touchdown. I don't think the offense is a little bit of a paper tiger, a little bit misleading here in this one. So I don't know. I don't really love their chances against Buffalo. Good for you for winning a playoff game, though. It was good. Good to win that home game, if nothing else. Leaves a good taste in the fan base's mouth. Just don't believe in them much going forward. But the Chargers, you overachieved to a high degree this year, and that is good news. It's rubber's going to meet the road this offseason. You got a whole lot of cap space to work with. You got to nail these draft picks for sure. And then we're just going to see where we go from here. The Chargers are going to start building a franchise around Justin Herbert, need wide receivers, need to continue to bolster the offensive line. Defensively, just need bodies at every level pretty much. There's a lot of areas of improvement, but the fact that they won 11 games with all of those areas they need to improve, got to be a little bit exciting. You just got to, well, I'm not even going to say that because Jim Harbaugh is not Brian Daboll, but you got to avoid that Brian Daboll effect a little bit. I did end up saying it, but it's Jim Harbaugh. I have no question. He's just a stud of a head coach. Jesse Minter doesn't look like he's getting a whole lot of head coaching attention. That's good news. That is good news if you are Jim Harbaugh. So you're going to get same exact scheme year in, year out, better players in that scheme. Chargers are going to be just fine. They're going to have full continuity on both sides of the ball. They're only going to get a better roster. I like the Chargers next year. I think they're going to be very, very good. Better as a team, even if not record-wise, better as a team than they were this year. So I'm excited to see what they do. But hey, these things are gonna happen. Better draft pick. That's what you can look forward to. A little bit better draft pick than the Houston Texans. So you can go to the bank with that, I suppose. The Ravens beat the Steelers 28-14. And it wasn't really that close. Russell Wilson, the numbers look good. 20 of 29, 270, 2 touchdowns. But he did all of his damage in the third quarter, scoreless in the other 3 quarters. Derrick Henry ran wild in the Steelers' defense, 26 carries, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns. George Pickens, hey, congratulations for showing up. Too little, too late, unfortunately. The Ravens are just a superior football team. So they get the win 28-14. They're going to be setting up a date with who do they play next week? They don't play the Chiefs, do they? Do they? Yeah, I think they do play No. The Texans play the Chiefs. The Ravens play the Bills. I apologize. I got the NFC mixed up with the AFC there whenever I was making that projection. So, yeah, the Texans are facing off against the Chiefs, so good luck there. Ravens are facing off against the Bills. Hey, you picking up what I'm putting down now? Banger. Divisional round is always chock full of bangers. So just believe me there. Let's do a little post-mortem on the Steelers, though. I don't know if the Steelers make any changes. Well, I know they're not going to make changes because that franchise is allergic to change when you get right down to brass taxes on that. Yeah, they've had like 3 head coaches for the last 80 years, essentially. I don't think they're going to fire Mike Tomlin after an 18th straight winning season, maybe 19 at this point. I don't even remember what the number is. But you don't get rid of that. It's the same thing I'm talking about with Penn State. Be careful what you wish for. Just be careful what you wish for, because you might get it and you might not like it. You might not like it a whole lot. Steelers, you just stick with Mike Tomlin. He has some flaws, sure, but every coach is going to have some flaws. There's nothing wrong with that. He's a really, really good head coach. There's a reason he's won 18 straight seasons, had 18 straight winning seasons. You just got to get a quarterback in there, and that's the main issue, is that you're never good enough or you're never bad enough to go out there and get a quarterback high in the draft. And this year, that's probably a good thing, because there's not really a whole lot of high-level quarterbacks in this draft. There's maybe 2 that I can think of that I can think, yeah, maybe you build a franchise around that guy. Even then, it's like a maybe sort of thing. It's not like a surefire, let's batten down the hatches and do this thing sort of proposition. So maybe this year is a little bit better on that front, but you got to get a quarterback somehow. Maybe they trade for Sam Darnold. Seems unlikely, but maybe they do that. They got to do something, though, at quarterback. I mean, Russell Wilson, you can't roll with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in the next year. In fact, I think you roll with neither, quite frankly. Then you just kind of call it a day from there. But you're looking at another season where you reset the quarterback position. Maybe they do roll with Russ just so they don't have to do that. Maybe they can see Russ as a solid bridge quarterback. Maybe you draft a guy in like the 2nd round. I wouldn't recommend doing that. But hey, maybe it's something that you try doing. I don't know. They got to get some sort of long-term, sustainable thing going at the quarterback right now. It's tough. It is really tough. Really tough right now for the Steelers. Because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't really have a chance to win. Even if you have a good defense, especially without any real receivers other than George Pickens. And George Pickens, who the hell knows what you're going to get from him on a week-in, week-out basis. I can't see a team like that that's built like that getting anywhere in the playoffs. So do I think it'll be different next year? Not particularly, but I think it's better than the alternative until you figure something out at the quarterback position. This is where you got to be for right now. So I don't know. We'll see what the Steelers do. It feels like Mike Tomlin's not going to be there for a long time at this point. It does feel like there's a certain degree of writing on the wall, but I don't think you pull the trigger just yet. I think you give it another year or two and then maybe reevaluate from there. It just feels so similar to Andy Reid in his final days with the Eagles, where you know he's still a great coach, but you just keep getting short. You keep coming up short. At a certain point, you got to move in a separate direction. If the Steelers are lucky, it'll work out like it did for the Eagles, and you're going to win a Super Bowl one day, but that's not a guarantee. At the very least, you got the 6, though. You do have the 6 to fall back on, so there is that. But the Ravens move on. We'll keep it moving from there. Bills beat the Broncos 31-7. No shocker here. I think a lot of the smart NFL people were calling this. I didn't feel good enough to add it to the card because the Broncos with Sean Payton scare me, but the Bills just outclassed them 31-7. Josh Allen went 20 of 26 for 272 and 2 scores. James Cook ran for $120 and a touchdown. This thing was over early, and I never got back in the Broncos' favor. They just the Bills, that is, just never gave them an ounce of life. Just tough scene from the Broncos in this one. They're still a good football team, though. They're much better than what their roster would have dictated coming into the season. They have an elite defense. They're going to have to figure some things out at receiver for sure. They're going to have to get better on just on the outside, running back for sure. They just got to get better across the board, really. They're not far off, the Broncos. It's just kind of, specifically if Bo Nix progresses, they might be in business here. They're not far off. They just ran into a Super Bowl contender here in the Bills. So going into the offseason for the Broncos, I would say, above all else, receiver in the draft is probably the way to go. I think running back wise, you could stand to upgrade, but they're not bad running back wise. I think receiver, offensive line is where you focus on, especially with a young quarterback. Those two areas are the main emphasis, I would say, for just putting the kid in the right position to go out there and turn into what you want him to turn into. So I think they're going to focus on that. We'll see if George Payton makes the right decisions. Still wild that he still has that job, but I digress on that front. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts did end up starting, and the Eagles did exactly what I expected them to do with Jalen Hurts at the helm. They beat the Packers 22-10. Never gave them a chance, really. This one never felt close. The Eagles jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and then that's pretty much all she wrote from there. The Eagles just led the rest of the way. The Packers did exactly what I expected them to do. They ran into a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and they wilted. That's just kind of their MO. But again, you made the playoffs, and with, I think, the youngest team in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, they are a crazy young roster. They got a bunch of really good young receivers. Christian Watson, you hope he gets back and healthy soon, but you still got a really, really deep receiving core. You do need a number one. That's kind of a problem, not having that. There's not really a separator on the roster that you can trust in on a week-in, week-out basis. You got to fix that. If you want to take the offense to a new level. But really good receivers, really good offensive line, really good quarterback despite his 3-interception performance in this one. Really good running back. Defense, solid. You're just not quite, you don't have the stars to compete with a team like the Eagles. I think that's the real separator. They got a bunch of really solid players, but not a whole lot of difference makers outside of Jordan Love on this team. I mean, Josh Jacobs, I guess you could make an argument that he's on that as well. But as a running back, it is a little bit limited, the amount of impact that you can have on the game, for better or for worse. He's a valuable player, don't get me wrong, but the impact is lesser to a quarterback or an elite corner. Jair Alexander's supposed to be there, but he had a mysterious knee injury / personal situation / doesn't, I don't know if he wants to be on the team or what's going on there. I assume it's an injury situation, but who the hell even knows with Jair Alexander? Has he really been that guy when he was in the lineup, though? I don't know. I feel like Jair Alexander's always been a little bit overrated in my mind. But yeah, you need number one corner. You need a number one wide receiver. You just need, a star pass rusher. You need stars in general is what the Packers need. Can they get it through the draft? They've shown an ability to do it in the past, but we shall see. We shall see on that front. Maybe they dip into the free agent market. Wouldn't be shocked, but not holding my breath on that one. This is the Packers we're talking about at the end of the day. The Commanders go on the road to the Buccaneers, and folks, what did I tell you about these Buccaneers, man? You don't know what you're getting on a week-in, week-out basis from them. And what happens? They host the Commanders in the wild card round. And I'm not going to say they lay an egg, but only put up 20 against the Commanders defense. That's better than expected, but still not great. With Marcus Lattimore, or Marshawn Lattimore, again, Marcus Lattimore, I apologize. Marshawn Lattimore, though, not playing great, still could not put up more than 20 points. The Commanders get the win 23-20. Zane Gonzalez flexing every bit of his OCD tendencies. Hey, awareness is key. Awareness is key, my guy. And that's not a joke. He does actually have OCD, but fixed his hair about 1,000,000 times in the final sequence of this one. But I digress on that front. Kicks the game winner. It got interesting. It doinked in, hit himself a little bank shot, but did it in style. That's all we got to say. He did it in style. I am ashamed to say that I was asleep for this sequence. I remember seeing 2 minutes left on the clock, and then I remember waking up and SVP was on. That's it. Well, actually, it was still on NBC, wasn't it? So whatever comes on after the game there on NBC, that's what was playing. And yeah, I apologize. I apologize for that. But hey, Commanders move on. They will be facing the Lions. They're going to be facing the Lions this week. And then I guess the Eagles are going to be facing the winner of the Vikings and the what am I thinking here? The Vikings and the Rams. My goodness, I'm out of it right now. I'm just all over the place here. What are we doing on time? It'll be a short one here today. I apologize for that. I really do apologize. That being said, that's pretty much all I got for you right now. I appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, a little bit shorter of an episode, but we have a little bit more content for you if the Vikings weren't about to play right in front of my face. I am so anxious. I'm placing a lot of my happiness on this right now. So you already know how it went after last night, but pray for your boy. With that said, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. We do this thing twice a week during the football season, which is sneakily, rapidly coming to a close here. That snuck up on me, but hey, we're going to be back to one a week here in just a month's time, pretty much. Oh boy, we're getting right down to it. But for right now, we're doing twice a week. We're pretty much recap on Tuesday, preview on Thursday. Where we're at right now. College football is at a point where we can just lump that and the NFL into the same episode and then call it a day. So yeah, that's where we're at. Subscribe wherever you listen to this. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, any of those sorts of locations, various locations, just go ahead and subscribe, man. Share. Follow me on Twitter at CalebVUA. Shoot me a DM over there or shoot me an email, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Any hoozles, that's pretty much all for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got no clue what I'm talking about. That being said, I have a lot of notes open here, but one thing I learned this week, when Pope Gregory the 13th switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar on October 4th, 1582, he declared that the next day would be October 15th. So effectively, there are 11 days missing from 1582. This was to correct a flaw in the Julian calendar, obviously implemented by Julius Caesar, where the Julian year was slightly longer than the solar year, which caused a slow drift in the calendar in relation to the seasons. To fix the drift, the Gregorian calendar skips 3 leap years every 400 years, which, it skips a leap year every year divisible by 100. Well, every year divisible by 100. It also is. Oh, Jesus. Okay. So there's a leap year. So they skip 3 leap years every 400 years. If it's divisible by 100, you skip the leap year. Okay? Follow me closely here. Unless that year is also divisible by 400. So 2000, obviously, we didn't skip a leap year, but 1900 we did. So there you go. There you go. One thing that you also learned is how we fix the calendar. Shout out to Pope Gregory the 13th. I'm sure he only did good things. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna watch this national anthem and this football game and try to get this thing uploaded and edited, all that sort of good stuff. Pray for your boy. I will talk to you on Thursday. See ya.